Hello and welcome to the Enterprise Talk Conversation Series, a peer knowledge resource by the CXOs for the CXOs. Now to our host, Kanika Goswami.
Hi, we welcome you to a podcast on stage with enterprise thought leaders. My name is Kanika and I'm the managing editor of On Media's B2B enterprise technology publications. We have engaging conversations with global leaders, thought leaders, and industry experts, and we have a reach of over 1.3 million business leaders worldwide. There seems to be hardly any wall between marketing and marketing technologies today. CMOs that have access to Composable MarTech stack that drives both speed and accuracy of marketing. Data is a foundation of all these tools, and AI is adding functionalities that surpass human intelligence. We discuss these with Suvish Viswanathan. He's the head of European marketing at Zoho. We talk about how CMOs find the balance while ensuring the technologies plugged in are ethical and acceptable, as well as driving revenue for their business masters. Suvish, welcome to the podcast. Lovely to have you here. We've been trying to get you for quite some time, but finally it's happened today. Thanks for making time for us.
Thank you, Kanika, for the opportunity. I think it's an interesting topic, so I'm glad that we are talking about it finally.
Yes.
Yeah, happy to be part of this.
All right. So a little two-line introduction to Suvish. He leads Zoho's marketing initiatives in Europe and has been associated with the company and its products for many years. Prior to joining Zoho, he headed the marketing organization for ADP's India and ASEAN region. So Suvish, the first topic which we just spoke about in the introduction is Composable MarTech. With technologies evolving rapidly and customer expectations always shifting, how do CMOs leverage Composable MarTech stacks and what benefit do they expect from it?
Yeah, I think composability has been around for a while. There is, when you look at the marketing tech stack, it has been evolving over the last 10, 15 years and more rapidly in the last 5 to 7 years, I would say. Where you have so many different tools, best-in-class tools that are needed for solving one particular use case within a marketing tech stack, right? And that's where the composability comes into picture because you have so many best-in-class requirements, an email marketing tool for email communication, automation tool, workflow tools, you have social media and all of that. So composability gives that agility to the marketing teams, right? So when you can bring different technologies together, made by different vendors, it has its own disadvantages and challenges. But at the end of the day, tools are needed to do certain tasks by the teams, and composability brings that flexibility. A lot has changed in the last couple of years, I would say, with more progress development in low code and no code technologies, where marketing teams can build their own applications which are needed for their day-to-day tasks. For example, a team that's going to do events, you would like to have a simple tool to collect the leads, or something to do with emails, for example, or the data that is being processed. And with the technology today, you can build these applications without really know-how of software programming, etc. And that kind of explodes the overall composability topic, because you have tools in the market that are developed by the vendors. You have also tools that could be developed internally by marketing teams without really the expertise required for software engineering programming. And it all has to come together. I think that's one downside of this, because when you have so many different tools, how do you make them work together? How can the marketing team have a visibility, a single pane visibility across different campaigns, projects that they are doing? But I think the progress is quite positive. The trend that we are seeing it brings that agility, a bit on the cost cost side also, I would say, but not really much of an advantage when it comes to cost efficiency, but it's there. And then it allows you to fix one section of the whole stack instead of disrupting the whole program. So if you are, for example, you want to do some sandboxing for an automation that you have put in place. So instead of changing the whole architecture, you can pull that particular part of the stack, fix it, and test it, and then sort of push it back to the live environment. So these are some flexibility that I can see in composability. Things have been evolving with AI. This is now taking a hockey stick kind of an approach in terms of evolution and the progress.
Right. And at the bottom of all of this lies data, especially when you're using AI tools. So all the outcomes that marketers can expect are only as good as the data that fuels these strategies. With third-party cookies fading, what should businesses prioritize to ensure that they're able to access quality inputs to AI models?
Yeah, data has always been a subject of discussion, right? And not just for marketing. You take any function for that matter within a business, finance, HR, sales, and your output in terms of analysis, reporting, dashboarding, or if you want to even take your AI systems to do some predictive, prescriptive analysis, the bedrock for all these analysis is the quality of data you have in your systems. In terms of marketing, the same logic applies. What sort of data is needed for you to make that decision, give that analysis report, ROI reports, and all of that to within the team, outside of the team, whatever matters to your business. And then how do you ensure that your mission critical applications, whether it is a CRM, your marketing automation, email campaigning, whatever those mission critical, business critical applications are, how can we ensure that these apps are they are fed with right quality of data, right? So there are obviously tools in place today to ensure that the data cleansing, data preparation is done before it hits your main business applications. So then you have some sanity in terms of quality, which is essential for any further analysis from there on, right? In terms of cookies, or in terms of the privacy angle of this whole thing, which is I think should be the cornerstone foundation element whenever businesses go about considering complete overhaul of their marketing stack or any kind of customer facing technology stack. How can the organizations ensure that the consent framework sits at the core of the whole application application set? And for that, there are obviously new developments that have happened in the last few years, especially post GDPR. I would say more focus on first party data, more focus on consent, etc. But I think today, despite all that progress, what businesses lack today is a central system of visibility, central system that sort of nervous system that coordinates between different applications. We spoke about composability earlier. Composability leads to some of these problems if it is not structured in the right way. So if a particular customer or the data in your system has given a consent to be reached out or not to be reached out, then how can this information flow into your CRM system, marketing automation system, your whatever system you have in place? So then that consent is respected, right? It leads to multiple other business outcome, the trust, transparency, the loyalty part of it, all of that, right? But it starts with the architecture you have set for your business application. First party data is gathering attention. However, marketeers also know that it is quite difficult to get that first party data, and then it is on the marketing team to ensure the quality of whatever content or whatever the collateral that is put out there to collect that first party data, if that has sufficient substance in it, right? So that's I think that boils down to the quality. The old adage saying content is king. It still matters even in this age of AI and all the other bells and whistles that you see today in the market.
That is very true. And then when we're talking of content, we're talking about localization. So as global marketing requires local expertise with the customers increasingly wanted hyper personalization, maybe customization. How does AI help? What kind of tools are we looking at that help to do this and then deliver, better customer experience as a result of this personalization?
Yeah, now global teams have this problem, right? So, for example, for my team here in Europe, it's a very diverse region with over 50 different countries across Europe, and each country having its own language. And majority of them don't speak English. And we have customers in all these countries, and most of our content, the base content, is developed in English. Then how do we localize it, right? So it goes beyond translation. It is to understand the availability of technology in a certain country. So where I am based, for example, in Germany, if I am talking about a certain feature functionality, is it available to the German market? If it is available, then how it should be perceived for the German market, right? So the copy, the content has to be localized. It's not just about literal translation from English to German or whatever, right? So this is a challenge. I've spoken to a few peers from the industry as well who are part of global teams, and localization is a challenge when it comes to releasing things, providing that customer experience, that uniform customer experience across geographies. And I think companies are figuring out new ways to do it. AI is certainly changing the game here. They are still in the primitive stage when it comes to the comfort level that is needed to localize everything, all the collaterals, etc. In fact, yesterday I was listening to the Google I/O event, and some of the updates that came as part of the event. One was real time translation on meeting, for example, the Google's meeting app, right? Now those kind of developments are certainly needed if we have to scale at a global level, cut across borders, right? And we are seeing some progress in that. We are also testing it internally. Some of these technologies. At Zoho, we are also working on our own real-time translation service that will be then embedded across our AV platforms that we have, and same goes for text-based translation. So Zia, which is our AI initiative, today can translate languages between English to other languages, Spanish, French, etc. But this needs that rapid progress because it's a real use case that needs to be solved for global organizations, right?
So I'm just curious. Don't consider this a question as a part of a Q&A or some such thing. Um, when you have to localize marketing outreach, it is
Yep.
often, as you just said, it often goes beyond the literal translation of a language. So what you would probably translate from English to maybe German or a French or a Polish or a Spanish or anything which goes across EU. The literal translation may not always be good enough for a customization. There are cultural nuances, there are geopolitical issues, there are so many references which are not just captured in the language. Would AI be able to help to get those touch and feel kind of aspects of your marketing outreach?
Uh, can it do today? If you ask me, I haven't seen it. Maybe something is out there, but I haven't seen anything as fine as it would look like if a human translator is involved or a human team is involved, right? But can we get there? There are definitely some green shoots from the recent announcements that we have seen in the last few months that we can get to that stage, right? But I think so. We just had our user conference in the US last week, and we showcased some of the functionalities around AI, where AI does the job up to the 90% mark, right? And then the last 10%, you always have your human coordinator or manager, so to say, to do that final check, right? Before it is made live. And I think that combination of technology plus human always plays that role. It very interestingly, we had a small event in Amsterdam last week. One of the speakers at that event is a filmmaker. He's been a filmmaker for last 20 odd years, and one of the earlier adopters for AI as well in filmmaking, right? And then you realize, and he made a very informative sort of speech where he showed multiple AI apps that are available in terms of doing films, making it a lot more cost effective, a lot more efficient in terms of the whole process, etc. But at the end of the day, if you want these tools to work on a certain subject, let's say filmmaking as a subject, you need the expertise of filmmaking to ensure the tool is giving the right output that your audience would like. So you still need that expertise that would come from the person who has been making films over the last 20 years to decide whatever the output this AI tool has given, what changes needs to be done, where it needs to be edited, what are the finer elements that would excite an audience, right? So same applies for any subject you take. Localization also is in the same bucket, I would say, right? Where you have written a white paper. Let's say, for example, this podcast. There is now you would want to localize this podcast in 5 different European languages. Maybe the tool can do some literal translation, but if there is a transcript that comes, people from these countries or from who are aware of the local context in these respective countries can edit that transcript before it is pushed live to the market, right? So I think that combination is would exist as far as I can see to combine human experience and expertise with the efficiency that the tools can bring.
So Call me a cynic. I still feel that the cultural nuances and the thought processes at any point in time, which would make people respond to a particular product, will need more human instinct and intuitiveness. So I'm sure tools will do a great job, like you said, 90% of the way there, but that 10% is going to be pretty critical, right?
Yeah, certainly.
Right. And now we're talking about artificial intelligence. We talk about ethical foundations of AI. Since its influence on marketing isn't going to slow down anytime soon, it's only going to increase, if anything. How do marketers ensure it is used ethically, transparently, and with complete accountability for outcomes?
Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, that's a very important topic. More I can see here, at least in the European region, it is quite important with EU, the AI Act that is the that was released recently, and there are amendments happening. Um, with AI, we can see that when the tools are made to decide or given that choice to decide, it takes the existing data set and makes a very logical, I would say, decision, right? Because it's all based on the data points. If this is there, then do this kind of an action, right? And of course, it learns from it and provides custom answers as we need. However, I think there's a responsibility on the marketeers and on the companies to provide transparency for its users. For example, if you are using a business tool, let's say a CRM or a customer support software in B2B context, often if you have to train your LLM or your AI system in the backend, it takes the data that is there on the tool to train itself so that it can provide more accurate information, accurate actions in the future. But as a vendor of the tool, am I providing that transparency to the customer before the data is being sent to my AI system? Am I asking the permission from the customer that, hey, this data is being used for so and so purpose, and if I'm allowed to do it or not? I think that transparency goes a long way in building the trust, and it is on the team's responsibility to get that thing going. Bias mitigation. It has been a topic when it comes to ethical AI. How do we ensure that again, it comes back to the previous point that we discussed. Tools can walk the mile up to a certain extent, but that last 10%, 20%, it is always important for having a human check until we reach a stage, maybe in the future, where tools are smart enough to replicate what we would have done if we were in that position, right? So I think that oversight is extremely important while we are navigating these initial stages of AI adoption, right? Privacy is another angle, right? So which goes back to the transparency part. However, I think this has to be taken as a subject on its own. Tools that when we are and when it comes to privacy, as an organization, you have to comply with multiple privacy laws across the globe. For example, at Zoho, we have teams in over 30 different countries, 25 different countries or so. We have data centers in about 18 regions. And if you look at the whole marketing teams at Zoho, each region has its own marketing team, and our infrastructure is spread across the globe. So for a company at this scale that is operating in multiple geographies with multiple compliance laws, it is extremely important that the systems are designed with privacy at the core of the architecture, because when your data is navigating across different teams, whether it is for product bug fixing or troubleshooting a particular customer's environment, there are necessary checks and balances in place. Fines are, or whatever the fines that you will have to pay is one part of it, and I think that is a smaller part of it. The bigger part is the trust that you have with your customers to maintain that this is the right thing to do. So there are these four to five different points that would come under the larger umbrella of ethical foundation that we need to have when it comes to deploying AI systems or in general digital tools in place, which one needs to keep in mind. Yeah.
Yes, and thanks, Suvish. Those are the only questions I have. Sorry. If there is something that comes to mind which we have, we may have missed in the discussion of what CMOs should be ready for, what would you want to prepare for in terms of technological innovations or newer products or solutions coming in the market for the next year or so? Is there anything you'd like to add there?
See, I think from what I've seen, marketing function generally has been one of the early adopters when it comes to new tools, and you would see that the churn in marketing tools also is quite rapid, as in every 3 years, every 5 years, you would see teams trying new tools. So that's a good thing, I would say, because you're not stuck with a system for a very long time that it just becomes a legacy system. Having said that, there is also, I think, as marketing leaders, the flexibility is important. A flexibility to try new things, and it's not like everything that shines is a gold, but then at least run smaller experiments, and these smaller experiments could be, how do you use AI in certain, let's say, localization or video creation or a data analytics tool that will help my marketeers to create their own reporting and dashboarding instead of relying on an IT department or whatever that is, right? So those are, I think, smaller experiments that the teams should try. It is good for the teams to also upgrade their skills. At the same time, you keep your tech stack agile, because you've tried and tested multiple tools, and you kind of are updated with your systems that's there in the market. I think that's one thing which works long way, whether you are a marketing leader or whatever other function that you are part of. There is definitely more, with the kind of geopolitical situation we are seeing across the world. There's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to trying new tools or even that business certainty, right? So I think it also calls for marketing teams to try new ideas, try new vendors, try new methods to really be valuable for the business. I think these are a couple of things I would advise.
Thanks so much, Suvish, for your time. We've taken more than 20 minutes, and I promised 20 minutes only to Adam. But
Okay.
thank you so much for being there today.
All right. Thank you very much, Kanika. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much for being with us. Please do follow us on social media for regular updates and new content.